pod bay doors, please, Hal.
The pod bay doors are slightly open on this mini episode. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Jerry Dean Roberts of overthinkingoscar.wordpress.com and armchaircinema.com. Sitting here with my favorite co-host, otherwise known as TV's Doug, the critic for TalkMovieToMe.com, Mr. Doug Heller. How the heck are you today, sir?
Push the button, Frank.
Just push the button, Frank. I got this wild hair this week because of the quarantine. You know, quarantine's over, but what we've been watching.
It probably shouldn't be.
This that's another discussion for another day. But I've been watching a lot of television, and so this is kind of just what we've been watching.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing what most of the rest of the planet has been doing and watching a whole lot of television because, it's episodic, it fills a lot of time. I've just been watching movies.
Can I throw this out here?
Yeah.
I keep hearing a lot of people complain about how long some movies are, and they say, I can't sit there for that long. But they'll binge something for 8 hours.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I do not understand that.
I think it's the mentality of television pacing versus filmic pacing.
Yeah.
Because you can watch 3.5 hours of a television show, and it is not going to be like watching 3.5 hours of The Irishman.
But technically it is, because if you're watching something that flows from one episode to the next, it's like watching a movie.
In terms of time consumption, but the construction is different.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's geared toward 10 to 15 minute increments to build suspense and then fade out and then come back to the suspense, deflate it and then bring it back up so that you're in it from commercial to commercial. Even when there aren't commercial breaks, they still edit commercial breaks in.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you get into this, but my wife and I binge a lot of stuff. And at the end of an episode, there's always, okay, let's do one more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock at night. Okay, let's just do one more, and then we'll go to bed. That happens constantly.
Yeah, I mean, we do the same thing. We watched the lockdown happened just pretty quickly after the Oscars, and the Oscars that I'm talking about were the 2020 ones, in which Parasite won big.
Yeah.
And my wife was very interested in getting into some Korean filmed entertainment, television and films, and I was more than happy to start there because I'm not well versed in Korean cinema.
Mm-hmm.
So we started watching this zombie show called Kingdom that takes place in feudal Korea. It's on
Netflix?
Yeah. It's a Netflix series. It's like 3 seasons, and there's probably going to be a 4th one of like this crown prince that's trying to fight a zombie infection that comes from a resurrection flower that brings people back.
Okay, that sounds like
monsters. But it's awesome.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's absolutely amazing. And I've watched Parasite a second time. I've been doing a lot of Rifftrax.
Parasite is one of those movies. It's almost like a wacky comedy.
Yeah.
In a sort of way.
But very dark.
But very, very dark.
If you watch it again, I have found that rewatching it only makes the experience better. Mm-hmm. Like, I know you were kind of in the middle of the road. You know that it's a great movie, but it still didn't catch you quite.
It didn't catch me like it caught a lot of people, but I did enjoy it thoroughly.
Yeah, I would recommend watching it again because a lot of stuff starts to come through.
Mhm.
a second time, as with any movie when you rewatch it.
Yeah. Well, and my thing is the logic center. My brain cuts in, and I'm thinking these have to be the dumbest people in the history of the world to fall for this, you know.
They're
But
very naive rich people.
extremely naive. Um,
But
but yeah, I did enjoy it. I liked it very much. I'm glad it won the Oscar
yeah,
because it is an original piece of work.
very much. Um, and I've just been watching a lot of Rifftrax, which I kind of count as a TV show and a movie
Hmm.
because I kind of count Mystery Science Theater 3000 as a TV show and a movie, and I watch a
Hmm.
lot of that too.
Are you having a problem with? I can't get the Mystery Science Theater, the new one on Netflix. The only thing I can find is the Gauntlet.
That's the second season.
Is that the second season? I can't find the first season.
Just go to season one. You'll
Okay.
be able to flip the season back.
Okay. Because I was
No, it's
digging
still
around
there.
and I couldn't find it.
Season 11's still there.
Um,
It's if you go into MST3K the Gauntlet
mhm.
and then just go to season one, it'll go
Okay.
to episodes and more, and it'll take you to the two seasons.
Because I was trying to start over.
Yeah, with Reptilicus. Oh,
I'm going to tell you something. I don't usually do this. I have a massive resistance to getting into a TV show that was canceled because I
instead of
don't.
one that got to finish all the
That
way.
got to finish.
Hmm.
But I got into Hannibal. I don't know if you saw this, but
I've never seen it. No.
it's it's of course the based on the Thomas Harris books. But what they do, and this is really interesting, they completely start over,
Right.
and they're trying to make this. They were trying to make this look like what Thomas Harris wrote,
Hmm.
and
Can't really do that on network television.
well, I was about to say this was produced by Brian Fuller, who his idea. It was only 3 seasons, and his idea originally was to do 6 seasons.
Hmm.
The first two dealing with Red Dragon,
Hmm.
the second two dealing with Silence of the Lambs, the last two dealing with Hannibal,
Hmm.
and then a short mini season is. This came out of the rumor mill, but this last one came out of the rumor mill. But a short last season that would deal with Hannibal Rising.
Hmm.
But the ratings weren't good.
Right.
And part of the problem was it was on NBC.
Well, yeah.
If you'd have put it on a streaming service, I think it would have worked a little better.
Well, yeah, and I love that streaming services are seeing good shows that get canceled because of traditional ratings
Mhm.
things and because of time slots and things that have been the bane of good television since television started.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we'll keep this up. They Yahoo did that with Community.
Yeah.
The last like two or three seasons. I think the last two they got 5 on NBC, and then when Yahoo was trying to make their own thing, which failed, they made seasons 6 and 7, which are now part of the Hulu and the Netflix seasons.
Yeah.
But I like that they've been doing that. They did that to Netflix did that for Lucifer, the Fox series that was based
My
on a
wife's been
DC
watching
comic. I've heard it's excellent, and it's kind of set, I think, within that Constantine Arrowverse kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
But it's a little bit further out there.
wow.
It's not quite in that.
Constantine is friggin' weird.
Yeah.
I never really got into that show. I've heard that was also good, but
Mhm.
but yeah, mostly what the television I've been watching has been with my family. So we did a big series rewatch of Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Mhm.
because it's, despite the fact that it gives a good impression of police officers. It is one of the greatest shows that I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
They could be doing anything. They don't have to be cops, and that's how I kind of rationalize it.
Well, I'll tell you where I've been. Is that my head? Because I watched so many movies. I was like, I want to get into a television show, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts too. I started watching a lot of Norman Lear sitcoms, which I'll tell you, if you watch Norman Lear, it's great because they're very funny and extremely topical in a very smart way. And if you don't know Norman Lear, he was the producer of All in the Family, Maude, The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, One Day at a Time, all that stuff. And they're like I say, they're very smart, but they're very current and very topical. And a few years ago, Netflix did a reboot of One Day at a Time, and I've been watching that.
I've heard that's good. That's Rita Moreno, right?
And she's amazing in it. The family this time.
She's amazing.
Yeah. The family's Cuban American, and it's specifically about their relationship to each other and their relationship to the culture. Being Cuban American in America, the things they have to deal with,
right,
both externally and internally. And it's a really interesting show because it doesn't pander at all.
Right.
You can't take these characters and make them white and have the same show.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like, white people just painted a different color. It's really about that culture, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm in the second season, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but because she was involved in it, it piqued my interest. So I mean, I've always liked her, but how can you not like? I want to live in America.
Yeah. The other thing is, Netflix canceled it.
Yeah.
After 3 seasons, and I think it didn't have anything to do with ratings or anything. It had, because Netflix has a hard time holding on to anything they don't own.
Yeah.
Which is what happened with the Marvel shows.
Yeah.
Because they could produce them, but technically they didn't own them, which is why they had to cancel.
They had the distribution, and that was it.
Right. And I think the same thing happened here because they had to cancel it. There was a Kickstarter, and it got resurrected for a 4th season on a network called Pop, which is a pop culture thing.
Okay.
And then the show went away because of COVID. Saying we'll be back in a year, and I'm thinking,
Well, I think that television and film is gonna be very interesting going forward because it's only been. Actually, I think in the coming week is when Gavin Newsom said filming can resume in California.
Yeah.
We're recording this
the mayor.
on the governor.
The governor, yeah. Sorry.
Yes, the mayor of California said.
Well, the mayor of Hollywood is Tom Hanks, so.
Well, I would vote for him to be president. I would vote for Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would want to see him put under that kind of pressure, though. I like him too much.
Oh, God. I like him too much.
Like him too much for that.
Just stop with the biographies already.
Yeah.
Just play a role.
I would love to see him sink his teeth into a fictional character again because it has been so long.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been forever since he's done something fictional where he's actually really gotten to create a character.
Yeah.
And I think the longer people go like that, when they start getting into these biographical dramas and they do very well with them, you start to forget how good they really are because of how well they can create a character instead of just how well they can impersonate somebody that people know or emulate somebody who maybe nobody had ever really heard of recording, like Daniel Day-Lewis with Lincoln.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, Abraham Lincoln sounds like Henry Fonda and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he sounds like.
Well, in my mind, he sounds like Gregory Peck, but
yeah, I'll grant that too. Yeah, no, that's actually more accurate. Yeah. Because every time I read the Gettysburg Address or the Emancipation Proclamation, it's Gregory Peck.
It's Gregory Peck. Yeah.
You're right. but yeah, we've been watching Steven Universe. Have you seen that?
I've seen a few of them.
It's so good.
I never really got. I never really got into it, but I've seen a few.
It is a beautiful little show with this incredibly charismatic, positive little boy who is learning how to use these superpowers that were given to him by his mother. His mother gave up her corporeal form to birth him, so he never met her. And the crystal gems that he's with are training him to use this gem. They're magical characters that help keep the Earth safe. Yeah. And he's learning these powers because he's half human and half crystal gem. And he's just the most adorable little kid, always looking on the bright side. Just everything that happens is just... He's kind of like Mike Wazowski. Like, people would be upset if their face got covered over on a commercial, but he was excited to have been on television.
He was excited to be on television.
Right, or the UPC code covers his face on the magazine, and he's elated that he's on the cover of a magazine. That is Steven Universe. 100%. And it's beautiful. I love it. It's one of the most positive shows that you could possibly watch. I adore it.
Unfortunately, my cartoon tastes right now still lean toward the adult.
Mine tend to as well, but
particularly since I rediscovered, it was since they put The Simpsons on Disney Plus, and I've just been rediscovering it and picking up episodes that I have not seen.
Right.
Now you have to understand, for the first 10 to 12 years of The Simpsons, I never missed it.
Oh well, yeah, no,
ever.
Yeah.
And then sometime after that, I think it's about the time I got married, I just kind of lost it and didn't.
Same thing happened to me with Family Guy and South Park, and then one I just decided,
okay, God, Family Guy.
I said I am going to catch up. I'm going to go back to the last one that I remember. And I used to get the DVD box sets before they were streaming everywhere.
Do you still watch Family Guy?
Yes.
Family Guy is aggravating. It's like, it started off like right around the time they got canceled. It was really, really funny because the world in this show is really surreal.
Yeah.
And it was really funny, but the jokes worked. The problem is, and sometimes they get really creative. I love any episode dealing with Stewie and Brian.
Absolutely.
Because, especially when they go somewhere, I love the multiverse episode.
Yeah. I
love the time travel episodes. But the show, occasionally it will do that, but mostly it's, this week, let's see how Peter's acting like a horse's ass this week.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it has become. The other thing that
and telling jokes that make no sense.
Well, I think that they do. For me, I still like the show because I've always liked the what is Peter gonna do.
I still like it. It's just,
but I think
frustrating
that as it's gone on and they've tried to remain fresh, they've tried to do a lot of things that are very meta and self-reflexive, and sometimes that intrudes on the show too much. Like they did a weird behind the scenes episode, I think in the season previous to the most recent one. So the 2018,
last
2019, whatever number they're on, I don't even know. But
I think they're on season 17.
Something like that, yeah. I mean, Which is weird because, usually it's how many years it's been on, but that is not how South Park and Family Guy number their seasons.
No.
So, I don't
Yeah,
know.
their seasons are weird.
Yeah. So, but there, and it was like the second episode of the season last year, and they were like they were actors, but they were still a family,
Mm-hmm.
but they were animated, but they did the show together, and it was how Peter kind of insisted on how Peter was just very difficult as a person and an actor and dealing with them
Right.
on the show and everything. So it wasn't funny. But this past season they started getting back into what they do best, which is they started getting back into cultural satire and away from trying to develop their characters.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they don't need to
They
try
don't
and do.
develop their characters, which the problem with being on this long is that they haven't developed their characters. And so the show becomes a joke machine.
Aside from Stewie and Brian, they have not really spent a lot of time growing their characters.
This show is one of the reasons I love American Dad.
American Dad's amazing.
American Dad, they I think it has to do with the fact that Seth MacFarlane doesn't write it. But it moved to TBS, I think 5 years ago.
Quite a while
and
now.
It's gotten surreal.
It's gotten weird but hilarious.
Have you been watching it recently?
Yes.
Did you see the breast milk episode? That was a weird episode. If Francine was worried that Steve was growing up too fast, so he started getting drinking energy drinks, and she started putting her milk in it, and he got hooked on it. It was just a bizarre episode. There was one this week where they opened a trophy shop, and it was just kind of stupid.
Didn't The Simpsons do that?
Did they?
There was one, or no, maybe it was that one. Maybe it was American Dad. Was it somebody got a participation trophy, so they started making trophies and selling them out of their garage? I think that was The Simpsons.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was a Simpsons when Homer decides, well, if people are getting trophies for everything, I'll just sell trophies so I'll make money, and people are buying trophies, and that's what they did, and they made a whole lot of money. He and Bart made a killing off of it, but it inflated everything so that everybody in Springfield was getting a trophy for everything. Like, oh, hey, you took 3 breaths in a row. Here's a trophy. Like,
no, this one was Stan got addicted to attention or something, affirmation.
Oh, really? That could
approval.
Never happen. That is so outlandish to his character.
But Francine decided they open a trophy shop, and it just wasn't very funny. And the last season has been like that. It's just they've been so surreal that they weren't funny.
See, I think with American Dad, when it first came on, I was like, yeah, this is fun. And then
it's a bunch of George Bush jokes.
You're right, and then I just didn't get into it, and I didn't stick with it. But I would catch an episode every once in a while because I did enjoy it. And then you started talking about how it's your favorite cartoon, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to this and watch it from the beginning. And I did. And
but let me tell you something.
Oh my God, I love it so much now.
You can't binge this show.
I did.
It's really too dark to binge.
I disagree. I loved binging it.
It's really dark. I tried binging it once, and I was like, this is bending my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
That show was interesting because they didn't know what to do with it.
Right.
Because it came around at the same time that they were canceling Family Guy.
Mm-hmm.
And Seth MacFarlane had said he wanted to do something that would be...
Second time they were canceling Family
Second time they were canceling it. And this was supposed to be the replacement because he had said something he wanted to do in response to George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. And they put this show on as a replacement. Well, then Family Guy got rebooted, so they didn't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. So Seth MacFarlane was not part of the writing on it because he couldn't juggle both shows.
Right, and
I think that's why it's so good.
it might be because he just brings his voice to Stan and half of the rest of the cast.
Stan and Roger, and I think also Greg.
Is he Roger?
Yeah.
I thought somebody else was Roger.
No, he's Stan and Roger and Greg.
Oh. Huh. Okay.
But they don't do. They're not the joke machine.
No.
And they don't have the cutaways.
No. Well, they do, but in different ways.
In different ways. And by the way, Stan has the weirdest childhood. It's disturbing. Anytime they cut to little Stan, it's
man.
Did you see the episode? It's a great episode. Did you see the one where he's dealing with issues with his dad, but it's done like community theater?
Yes.
It's hosted by Patrick Stewart. It's really great.
Yeah. Well, he had a... Well, because his father was a criminal special agent kind of person who was... Yeah, he was like a diamond thief or something. Mm. He was always in and out of jail. Now he's Now his father is Krampus.
Yeah.
Or he might even be Santa now because they helped him become Krampus and overthrow Santa because Santa always tries to kill the Smiths.
They do.
It's brilliant.
This show does the greatest Christmas episodes ever.
Since Futurama.
Oh my God, since Futurama.
Since Futurama, because Futurama's Christmas episodes are mwah.
Did you see the one where he was trying to get raptured?
Yes.
That was brilliant.
Yes. Although I will say that Family Guy's Christmas episodes got really kind of amazing too. You talk about dark. You watch
Christmas Time is Killing Us.
Yeah. and I love that episode when they're trying to find the North Pole and they're guided by the David Borealis. Mm-hmm. Instead of the Aurora Borealis, is David Borealis up there shimmering in colors and he's helping them, giving them directions.
Oh God, you know one of my favorite episodes, you made me think of this, one of my favorite episodes of Family Guy ever. Did you see the one where he fell in love with the cutout of Kathy Ireland?
Yes.
I think Horace has it at the bar and he just gives it to him and he falls in love with it. But it's the real Kathy Ireland. It's not a cartoon.
And then there's the Bird is the Word episode.
Oh God, I couldn't stop laughing at that one.
That
the one where
was so fun. And then there was one I just watched. It was the end of the most recent season, and it was one of their the lights go out so they tell a story kind of thing like they did for the Star Wars episodes. Yeah. But they were in a motel during a hurricane. So they sat down and Peter was like, all right, we're going to see whatever this Holly Bibble is. It's the Holy Bible.
Yeah, it's the Bible episode, yeah.
Yeah, and...
and then the Disney reboot.
They just... The way that they were going... It's because
it was the only book in the.
It was the only book in there, and I love they start telling. He starts doing the Noah thing, and he starts co-opting Bill Cosby routines, and Lois is like, "What are you just taking from Bill Cosby's routines?" He goes, "What's he gonna do? Sue us? They're fair game now."
There's a podcast that I listen to where they talk about classic television, and anytime the subject starts to approach the Cosby Show, they refer to it as the Felicia Rashad Show. It's just like they just won't go there. Okay, well that's pretty much all I got.
All right, yeah, that does it. Here, that's
this was fun.
That's what we're watching. I think that's kind of what we always watch, though.
Yeah, I'm watching Hannibal and One Day at a Time. I also just watched this Unorthodox about this girl from the Hasidic community in the Williamsburg who escapes the community to run to Germany, which is runs to Berlin.
Because, that's always been really good for her people.
And they address that.
I'm sure they do.
That's a really good show.
Yeah.
It's only 4 episodes, though.
Kingdom on Netflix, for me, Steven Universe, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, despite everything that's going on.
And all of American Dad.
All of American Dad. Oh, Bob's Burgers.
Bob's Burgers is a great show.
And
King of the Hill. Oh my God.
King of the Hill is a good one.
King of the Hill is a great one.
That's a good one to go back to. Yeah. So you can find all of our back episodes, all of our mini episodes, at the podbaydorspodcast.wordpress.com. Find us on iTunes and YouTube. We are on Twitter at pod_bay and Patreon at the same handle. Thank you very much for joining us, and the Pod Bay doors are now closed.
The mission has been completed.